Okay, so you should be able to watch the LCD on the screen and see everything. So, yeah, I think there's a chair left over there. You can use that chair. I shouldn't be needing the screen. There's a chair up there. Okay, so we're going to go through scanning, and if you have questions, just shout. And so this is the scanner we're going to be using. What I have on the table here is the tray we're going to use. This is what your negatives go into. And I'll pick it up since I think everybody can see. I have one. So this is the orientation it needs to be in on the scanner. You see this open spot here? That needs to go on the top. If you turn this around, it won't work. The scanner has a sensor in it, and it needs to read that open space. Okay? So the scanner itself, and the one thing that people often neglect to do is to take this piece off. They leave it in here, and you're not going to be able to scan a negative with it. The transparency hood, which is what scans negatives, is in the top. This is in place when you're scanning artwork or photograph. So you need to make sure this is off. Typically for me, when somebody tells me the scanner is not working, 80% of the time it's because they left this in. So make sure you take it off. Okay? And then we'll go through how to load this. This goes down here, and if you notice, there are white triangles to line up, and you should be good. Okay?
So there's a set of triangles on the scanner and a set of triangles on the negative period.
So I think for your purposes, we'll, and you will need to reserve this, just so you know. In Patron Portal, the scanners are listed. So that way, when you come in to scan, you can have everything waiting for you. Okay? And in this room, the scanners are located next to a monitor, and you'll notice that there's nothing else connected to that monitor. Okay? So I have scanners in this room and scanners in the Walter B. course. So I'll supply the film cleaner for you. And the film cleaner, almost like that. So I do, because I don't want to lay the negatives onto this table. It's far too abrasive, and you're likely really going to scratch the negatives. Yeah, there are things you don't want to do with negatives. Pick it up by the edges, never put your fingers directly on the negative. The acids in your fingers will start to eat through the emulsion and fairly quickly. So just pick it up by the edges. And then I would also, film cleaner is cheap. I don't care how much you use. And I usually just go one direction with this. I don't go back and forth. because if you do have any dirt, any particles on this or in the film, you're just dragging it back and forth, so I don't. Some people do it differently. Okay, so the dull side is the emulsion. And that's the side that's going to go up. Okay? So if I take my tray, open it up, and put it in here. Okay, this closes without problem. Okay. Good. Question?
No, I was just gonna say, if your film's a little curled, you may have to kind of play around with it a little bit. Yeah,
Be gentle.
and when we get through here, we'll show you the negative carrier, because you have to slip that little thing in a couple of grooves at the bottom and then kind of push it down. And then when you push along the edge, it locks it in place.
Okay, so close this leg. And then change my screen. Okay, so this is the software we're going to use. It's called Silverfest. And this works both for negatives and flat art. So we're going to go up here and change this to transparency holder. If you look up there, it says, well, kind of fuzzy, isn't it? The first one says reflective. So that means a piece of artwork or photograph. And we want a transparency with the holder. That's the tray we put it in. And I'm going to have to restart Silverfest. Oh.
Give you an error signal.
No. Uh-oh. I have a bigger issue.
Grab that signal.
Sorry about that. Apparently the weight of the adapter pulled the plug out. All right, so.
What did you select under negative, Bob? Under glass, you selected transparency holder,
Yeah.
the middle one.
Let me restart Silverfest.
This is much more complicated than the process is. That's for doing all kinds of strange things. We're just looking for a basic scan, right? So you're not going to alter contrast or anything like that.
Okay, cool. So we're going to hit pre-scan. Just is going to go through. So the pre-scan is just going to recognize something's here.
Where was pre-scan, Bob?
Pre-scan is here. Okay, so,
Can I see it?
sorry?
Yeah, you do it again. You did it, it's right at the top.
Okay, it's up here in the corner. We'll run it again.
After transparency folder, you then click rescan.
Yes. Right, and so anything in this red marquee is considered the log area. That's what it's going to scan. So, you know, if you notice the cursor, when I move it around this red line, it changes. If I'm here, it has a little hand that lets me move it from the center. You know, the arrows let me shrink it. So what I'm going to do is position it around 1 negative.
I can't remember, Bob, can they do, is 4 strips the maximum they can do?
Trying to think what this cuts to. You're cutting it into 4.
5.
All right.
So they can do 20 at a time.
Well, yes, you know, the areas that aren't negative is going to affect your settings. So.
Yeah, so normally you guys, you would pull the arrows so that it covers all of the negatives that you're scanning. But right now, Bob has cropped it down to where the 1 strip is. If you scan all this information here, you're just making a larger file than you need. You don't need to scan all that information, right? It's not usable to you, so, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to scan this 1 image. I'm going to use a magnifying glass to zoom in. So I just have that on 1 image. And I can also rotate it if I want. So okay.
So Bob, if you're scanning a whole strip, it will automatically scan the 4 files and separate them, right? I know on my scanner it does, and
What's the scanner?
I have the same one. 76.
With Silverfast?
No, not with Silverfast.
Okay.
Well, I do, but I don't use Silverfast. So you have to,
Sorry?
I wouldn't think you would have to scan every single negative separately. We'll figure it out.
All right, this is for my workflow. I usually scan each one.
Yeah.
I understand.
That's gonna take a lot of time. Although, once you guys make your contact sheet, you'll select specific negatives that you're going to use for your assignment. So you really don't have to scan everything, just the ones you're going to use, yeah. Bob, were you gonna start at the top to like name the file and save the file to a particular place?
I'll go through.
Okay.
I was going to go down here to Medfix and select my film type.
Okay,
So there are presets in here for, in this case, trials.
yeah, so he selected Kodak Tri-X 400 ASA.
And then I'm going to change the exposure so that I'm not losing detail, particularly in the shadows. Okay. There are other controls in here, for midtone contrast. And if you do get stuck and you can't figure out what something is, then Silverfast, you notice this Q, this is QuickTime. So for instance, here, if I'm unsure of what these settings are, I can click on this, and it brings up a video tutorial. So it'll go through what these settings are and how to change them. Okay. And that's pretty much for all of your choices, I think.
I mean, yeah, you've got a lot more choices, but I don't want you to mess with them. Just exposure, right? Because you'll.
So let's go up here to what we're going to call this. We'll just call it cafeteria. If there are multiples, I'd probably maybe underline A or something. This is going to default to the picture folder that's created when you log in under your name. If you click the folder icon, you can navigate to a different area or create a different folder.
Like your flash drive?
Well, I wouldn't recommend scanning directly to the flash drive, though.
To the desktop.
To the desktop and then moving it to a flash drive.
Sorry, yep, you're right.
Only because, you know, scanning directly to your flash drive is going to be really slow. So I'm just going to leave it there. This is my option for changing it to, well, I'm typically going to scan this as a TIFF. You could scan it as a PSV also.
Never as a JPEG. Always a TIFF or a PSV.
I don't worry a great deal about this. What I'm going to worry about is my file size. And right now, my file size is 357 kilobytes, which is too small for anything. And I'm going to overscan this rather than underscan it. I'd rather have too large a file. So if I move the resolution up to something large, you know, 90 megabytes might be a bit too high, but it's easier for me to have something too large and reduce it. If you scan something too small, try to make it larger, the quality is just going to drop. You don't want to start with too small a file. So for me, 93 megabytes is pretty good. I can open that up in Photoshop and do anything I really want with it. There's something else for me to cover.
I don't use Silverfast at home, Bob, but is this just right now at 300 DPI?
Yeah.
And so take the cursor and go up and down on the scale, because that changes the size of files.
This scale?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah, so that, oh, I see, it's adjusting according to the output size?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But this is the critical number you want to look at, is how many megabytes this file is going to be. Yeah. And on the other hand, you don't want to make this file enormous. You know, I've seen people scan files at a gigabyte, and you know, you can wrap a bus with an image with a 600 meg file. There's no reason to ever have a file that large.
So let's say at least 75 megabytes and under a gigabyte, okay?
So if we're good with that, and we won't go into all the other options here. We can hit scan. And if you notice down here in the corner, it's going to give you the status.
How about the 4824-bit, Bob?
Uh, These are your choices. Sorry, I just leave it at 4824. You don't want to use raw, particularly for the black and whites. Because it is raw, which means that the capture is going to be a negative image, it won't be a positive.
Okay, yeah, so you don't want to be at 16.8, 16.1, 4824. That's where you want to be, okay.
Yeah, the whole point of scanning for me is to capture as much information as I can. To get as good a file as I can. And manipulate it later in Photoshop where I have more tools.
Okay, any questions, you guys? No? So Bob, this scanner and that scanner, are they going to look the same? They both have Silverfast?
Yeah,
And then,
everything has.
okay, the larger one, do you recommend using that one?
Well, the tray is different and sometimes people have difficulty orientating it.
Yeah,
The scanning itself is pretty similar, but the trays are different.
yeah, and the quality isn't as good, is it?
Trying to think how old that scanner is.
Yeah. These are more up to date.
Yeah, I think, that scanner may have been original too when we built this room out.
Yeah. So I would stick with this one, you guys, or that one, and then there's similar scanners in the other room.
Yeah,
Okay. Two of them, I think you said?
I believe so.
Okay. So, once you get your negatives made, in the meantime, you can make a contact sheet if you want. Well, you should make a contact sheet because that'll help you decide which image you want to select. And then, on your negative sleeves, like I did with magic markers, make a square around those negatives that you think you're going to use. Maybe you select 4 or 5 of them and then come back and scan those 4 or 5 images to take a closer look to see if they are indeed sharp and what you think they should be. And then, those will be from the 2 images. You'll select from those two images.
Where do you want us to get it? Like, we
Um,
might have to scan on Monday.
Yeah, as far as you need to, we're going to be meeting to work next week, all period. So, whatever you need to do, just work to get caught up. And 2 weeks from today is when we're going to be critiquing the files online. Okay, so 2 weeks from today, you'll have to have your 2 images for the assignment ready to show. Okay.
So next Monday is pretty much like, I think it should be by the end of the day next Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it depends on whether you plan on coming in on your own to work and that kind of thing. So yeah, you can always come in when the lab is open, this lab, the darkroom lab. And I believe, who else is using this room besides me, Bob?
Well, currently, you're the only one that's reserved anything for us,
Yeah.
I think. However, I would say there are likely times on Wednesdays when the fine art forms class may be in here. I don't know the dates.
Yeah, so that's why if you reserve a space on Patron Portal, it's gonna be there for you, right? Cool. So if you want to stop on your way out and look at what this thing looks like, you can, but this is what you want to check out from Bob.
Well, when you reserve the scanner, I will set these here for you. You're not going to be, and it holds for anything in the lab, whether you're on the enlarger, you're processing film. Well, when you process film, you do need to reserve a tank ahead of time. But once you do that, everything will be left at that station for you. And when you're through, you'll leave all of that at the station as well, okay? So, you know, we're doing that just so we can reduce contact between people and transfer of materials between people and transmission of the virus. So for me, it's really important that we understand that. But, you know, if you reserve a scanner at such and such a time, the tray and the film cleaner will be there. Okay.
Okay, any questions, guys? No? Okay, those of you that are washing prints, let's go over there now. Well, everybody should go over there and I'll show you how to dry them. Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate it. Send me that, video, I can post it.
Someone will have their phone.
Oh, man, who that is.